Number one, buy a cliche book and study it. Now, the book I recommend is called The Dictionary of Cliches. You can find it on Amazon. I'll leave the link down below. This one is unique in the sense that it gives you the origin of the cliches. And they're pretty fascinating. They go back clear from the 1600s. A lot of them came from the Renaissance period, the Dark Ages, the Roaring Twenties. They can be horrific, they can be funny, filled with romance, filled with horror, terror, and even comedy. And when you learn things this way, it's easier to remember it. And you want to get used to what all the cliches are because we become very used to them. We hear them all the time in conversations and that. And then when we write them, we don't really recognize them as being cliches and we get in trouble because Hollywood story analysts and producers, they know cliches. So it's a good idea to learn them. This can help a lot with your dialogue. I'll send coverage to a client and mentioning that there's cliches in the dialogue, and they'll ask me to give them an example. Can you give me an example? I didn't have any cliches in my dialogue, and I give them like 5 or 10. They just didn't recognize it because they're so used to hearing it. And then they come back with, oh, geez, I didn't realize it. So this is a good way to learn it quickly and how to avoid it in the future. Now let's take a look at this example real quick, and this is how to handle it. If you're used to the cliche, maybe you like this cliche. It really rings true for what you're writing. Here's what you do with that. In the example, Lisa says, at the end of the day, love conquers all. We know this is a cliche. Now, if you are like in love with this love line here, don't keep it because we know it's cliche. Find a way to mix it up a little bit. Give it your own original spin. And here in the better version, Lisa says, guess love's got a longer fuse than I thought. You want to give it your own unique spin because cliche dialogue tends to get rewritten. Now, and knowing the cliches will also help you spot them and replace them with that fresh, original, character-driven phrasing rather than the cliche. Number 2, don't over-explain. I see this one quite a bit. And it's not just like telling us, what's happening in a scene. Sometimes we don't realize we do it because we're just in the moment in the scene, an emotional type of dialogue is coming out, but yet we explain. Let's take a look at this one and talk about it a little bit. Jack, this is the wrong way, he says, I can't believe you cheated on me with my best friend in our bed while I was away. That is over-explaining, especially if we just saw it. Because remember in screenplays, you cannot repeat what was just seen or heard. You have to find another way to say it. So a better way for Jack to approach this would be to say, he left the window open, the smell never left. It's saying the same thing. I know what you were doing. I know who you were doing it with. I know this can be hard to do because we have a tendency to want to make ourselves clear, especially to the audience. We want to let the audience fill in their own blanks. Suspense tends to thrive on omission, not repetition. You want to give the audience that chance to participate in the story. Number 3, listen for subtext in real life. Now, I get asked this, probably is the third thing on the list that screenwriters ask me behind how do I get an agent and how do I sell a script, would be what's subtext and how do I do this? Well, first, subtext is just the underlying meaning behind what people are saying. And what I suggest doing is listening for it in real life. You do it all the time. We all do, and don't realize it. When a friend says something to you and you know what they were talking about, even though they never mentioned a person's name or something. When you're watching a comedian and they cut a joke without saying the name of the place or person they're referring to, and you get it and everybody laughs, how did you know? The subtext, the underlying meaning. And audiences love to read between the lines. Let's take a look at our example. The boss says, I know you're lying about being sick. That is not subtext. The better way is to say, hope the flu clears up before your Cancun tan does. Now see, didn't he just say, yeah, I know you're lying, right? But did he say it? So take a look in your dialogue. Are you having things that are being said directly? Because they get kind of explanatory. You want to go in and layer it with that subtext. Listen for those things in your own life when you're talking to your spouse, you're talking to your friends. If you're at a coffee shop, if you're at Starbucks, listen to what people are saying. A lot of times they never mention a person or a place, but the other person knows what they're talking about. This is what subtext is. Number 4, avoid direct dialogue. Now, direct dialogue really tends to flatten the tension in a story. It's like, you just said something there, like, yeah, I knew that. Like, you want to keep the audience guessing. I think that's the thing I don't like the most about direct dialogue is I just kind of guess exactly what he was going to say or something very close. You don't ever want me or the audience to guess. So let's take a look at the example. Sarah says, I love you, Mark. Please don't leave. A better way would be saying, if you're going, take the dog. He misses you more than I do. She's saying in her own way. And notice there's more pain behind that second way she said it. Now you feel the pain. She got the dog in there. He misses you more than I do. It's less direct way to say that. And I think it holds a lot more emotional tension to it than saying something directly. So you're kind of saying it sideways. And it tends to be more cinematic this way. So pay attention to those phrases, no matter how short they are, that they're not too direct. Ask yourself, is this something the audience can guess that's going to be said? If the answer is yes, you need to change it. Number 5, embrace broken sentences. And in real life, people interrupt. They stumble. They overlap. Sounds a little messy sometimes. Not that you have to write everything in an incoherent way where no one can understand it, but you want to write it in a way that it sounds natural. Movie and television dialogue is not real life at all. It is real life that is dramatized. Let's take a look at the example. The wrong way is Mia says, I didn't mean to hurt you, Luke. It was never my intention. This is two full sentences. It's better if Mia says, I didn't mean, and Luke says, yeah, you never do. This sounds more like real life, although technically it's a dramatized piece of dialogue, right? And get the underlying meaning in there. Isn't this more powerful than saying it directly and making sure all the grammar is correct? Number 6 is really my favorite, and I love when they do it in movies. I think it keeps it fresh and interesting, and it focuses on the visuals. When a character says one thing and does another, those are characters that the audience remembers. All right, so let's look at the example. Carla says, I'm furious with you. It's better if Carla smiles and says, of course I forgive you. And she pours his coffee into the plant. Saying one thing and doing another is a powerful way to keep the golden rule in place, which is visuals are the powerhouse of film, not dialogue. And by just saying I'm furious with you, this is also very direct, isn't it? This also creates those natural reversals in a scene. Next, let emotion drive words. Emotions live in specifics, not declarations. Just like we just showed you that instead of doing a declaration of how I forgive you, and when she didn't really want to say it, she says, yeah, sure, I forgive you, and then she dumps the coffee in the plant. So let's take a look at this example. Wrong, this is the wrong way. Tom says, I'm angry that you took my daughter away. A better way for Tom to say would be to say, you think I care about the house? You took her drawings off the fridge. See, there he's not directly saying it. He's letting the emotions of what she did, taking the drawings away from the house, something that's personal. Isn't that his way of saying, you've taken her away from me? This is a little more advanced thing that you can do in terms of dialogue. And it's not stating an actual declaration. Like, I'm angry that you took my daughter away. By saying, you took her things off the fridge, you did that. It has more emotional impact. And again, as we mentioned earlier, it involves the actual audience member in the story. They feel his pain at that moment. And that's where you want your audience to be at all times, emotionally involved in the story. Number 8, create conflict without shouting. Many times I'll send a coverage to a client and say, need more conflict in your dialogue. And they'll say, well, I don't want my characters shouting at each other. Well, conflict is not about shouting. It's about the quiet intensity that cuts deeper than noise does. That look across the room, someone brushing by you, them slamming the door shut. Things like this that are visual as well as dialogue are powerful. They create conflict. Now let's take a look at it in terms of the dialogue. Here in the example, the wife says, you ruined my life, you selfish jerk. And the better way to have that said from the wife would be, I can't remember the last time you said my name. So by creating conflict without shouting, she's still saying the same thing in a more subtext-driven way that has powerful emotion behind it. No need to shout. In fact, there's something a little more intense about someone who doesn't shout. Think of all those killer movies like Silence of the Lambs and that. Did he ever raise his voice once? And yet the power of what he had to say was so intense. Conflict can be created with dialogue and visuals without ever shouting a word. Next is make dialogue serve the story without spoiling it. If you don't find the bomb in time, it'll explode and kill everyone in the city, Martin says. The better way would be, we're already out of time, aren't we? We don't want to get too direct, we don't want to get too explanatory. Don't announce the plot. I mean, you've taken me out of the story now as a reader, and you've ruined my suspense. I'm no longer emotionally involved because you just told me what might happen. This can be harder to detect in your screenplays. Really take a look at it. Are you directly telling your audience what's about to happen? Number 10 is, remember, no matter what you're writing in dialogue, that visuals are the powerhouse of film. In film, visuals tell the story. Dialogue supports what we see. It is not there to drive the story. Let's take a look at the example. The wrong way, Amy says, I'm leaving you forever. Here's my wedding ring. Better, she's silent, no dialogue at all, and she slides her wedding ring across the table. So think about ways you can visualize things. All right, so we'll see you next week. And until then, have a good one.